All right, so I promised you there was an easier way to find the least common multiple of 2 or 3 numbers other than writing them all out. So let's do that now. There's 2 methods. The first method I'm going to do is the chart method. And so the chart method, okay, we want to find the least common multiple here of 12, 18, and 20. So we're going to write out those 3 numbers. Okay, and this is kind of similar to that division method from greatest common factor, in that we're looking for a prime factor that would divide into all of those numbers if we have one, or at least 2 of them. So here I can tell I've got a prime factor that would divide into all of those numbers because I can see they're all divisible by 2. So then I'm going to do the division. So for each of those numbers. So I've got 12 divided by 2 gives me 6. 18 divided by 2 gives me 9. 20 divided by 2 gives me 10. And now we kind of start it all over again. So we're looking for a prime factor that would divide into all 3 of those numbers. And there are none. 9 doesn't divide into 2. The other 2 would divide into 2, though. So if there's no common factor that would divide into all these numbers, we need to pick a factor that would divide into at least 2. And so here that is 2. I can divide the 6 and the 10 by 2. 6 divided by 10 gives me 3. 10 divided by, I'm not sure what I just said there, but 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. 10 divided by 2 gives me 5. The 9 is not divisible by 2, so it kind of gets a free pass. It just gets to come down here and hang out. And then we do the same thing. Once again, there's no common factors to all 3 of those numbers. But there is a prime factor of 3, which will work for 2 of those numbers. So I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to get a 1, a 3, and then that 5 is going to come down for the right. Okay, now here's the cool thing about this method. We're going to draw ourselves an L, which stands for least common factor here. Multiply all those numbers together, and that will give us our least common multiple. Okay, so what do I have? Oops, I have 2. I'll say LCM, least common multiple, equals 2 times 2 times 3 times 1 times 3 times 5. And by the way, I knew I was done with my table because all those numbers on the bottom are now prime. Okay, so I've got just prime numbers left. And let's multiply that out. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. And I get 180. Okay, so that is method 1 using the division method. The nice thing about it is that it spells that L. The next way is doing the trees. And so I'm going to do my prime factorization trees just like I would have last chapter with the greatest common factor. So 12 is 4 times 3. 3 is already prime, but 4 can be broken down till 2 times 2. And we're going to do that for each of our numbers. This method, I can kind of understand why the division table is nice. It's probably a little faster. Okay, there's my prime factorization for 18, and then let's do 20. Okay, and now I've got all of my trees. So what I'm going to do is a different kind of little chart. I am going to say I found 12. The prime factorization is 2 times 2 times 3. Now I'm going to put my next number down, so 18. And what I'm going to do, well, my first prime factor listed there is a 2. So if I have a column that already has a 2, like I do here, I'm going to put it underneath one of the first 2's. So I've got a 2, so it goes there. Then I've got a 3, and I have a column of 3, so I'm going to put my second 3 there. You can put the multiplication in if you want. And then we've got another 3. We don't already have an extra 3 column, so I'm going to make myself another column there. And then we're going to do the same thing for 20. So 20, I've got 2. There's a 2, so I'll put it in that same column. Then I have a second 2, and I already have a second column of 2, so I can put that there in that second column. And then I've got times 5, and I don't have a 5 yet, so I have to create a new column for it. Now the LCM is going to be, you're going to multiply all those columns together. So we've got a 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. And if you look, that's the same multiplication that we got for that first method. And so our answer once again would be 180. So you don't need to know both of these methods. Use the one that works best for you. So using your method of choice, go ahead and try these next 2 problems. And then, so pause the video, try those, and then I'll do them both ways. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to figure out the least common multiple here. So this time we're doing 12, 20, and 35. So let's do the division table. So prime factors of all 3, there are none. I have nothing that would be divisible by all 3, or that would divide into all 3 of those numbers. But I do see I've got 2 even numbers. So I'm going to pull out a 2. That's going to give me 6 and 10 here. 35 is not divisible by 2, so it just comes along for the ride. And I'm noticing I've got a 10 and 35. Both of those are divisible by 5. So let's take out that 5. The 6 just comes down. 10 divided by 5 gives me 2. 35 divided by 5 gives me 7. Now I've got a 2 in common to the 6 and 2. So let's write that one out. That gives me 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 7 is not evenly divisible into 2. Sorry, I said that wrong. 2 is not divisible into 7. And so I'm going to just write down the 7. And now the 3, 1, and 7, those are all prime numbers. So I know I'm done. I can draw myself an L. And then my least common multiple is going to be 2 times 5 times 2 times 3 times 1 times 7. And if you do that math, well, let's do it together. 2 times 5 times 2 times 3 times 7, I get 420. Let's try the tree method and see if we get the same answer, which we should. Okay, so I've got 12. So that's 4 times 3. 4 can be broken down into 2 times 2. 20 is 4 times 5. And we'll break that 4 down into 2 times 2. 35 is 5 times 7. So let's write out our chart. So we'll start with first number 12. So we've got 2 times 2 times 3. This next number then, we're going to put the numbers in the shared columns when we can. So we start out with a 2, and we have a 2 here. So I'm going to put that in that column 1. We've got another 2, so that can go in column 2. And then we've got a 5 that we have to put on the end. Last one, 35. I've got a 5. And then I need to make a new column for my 7. So the least common multiple then is going to be 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 7, which you'll see is the same thing we got for our first problem, or for the tree method. So we end up once again with 420. And last one here, we want to find the least common multiple of 20 and 30. So let's do the division method, 20, 30. Both of those, now I want to divide by a prime factor. So right away I'm like, oh, both of those are divisible by 10, but I don't want to put 10 there. I'm going to put 2 there. That gives me 10 and 15. Now I could divide out a 5 to get a 2 and a 3. 2 and 3 are both prime, so I know I'm done. So I'm going to draw myself a little L here. So my least common multiple then is 2 times 5 times 2 times 3. And that will give us 60. Let's try some prime factorization trees. So 20 is 4 times 5. 4 is 2 times 2. 30 is 15 times 2. And that 15 is 3 times 5. Okay, so we're going to draw ourselves the different sort of table there. We're going to say 20. We're going to prime factorization table, let's say. 20 is 2 times 2 times 5. 30, I've got a 3 there. I've got to add a new column for that 3. Then I've got a 5. I have a column for 5s, and I have a column for 2s. So my least common multiple is going to be 2 times 2 times 5 times 3, which once again will be 60.